Thank you, Sarah. Next up, please welcome Deepinder from 75F.
So folks, let me start with an audience show of hands. How many of you have ever felt too hot or too cold in your offices? So our journey starts with your raised hands. We have developed a system that lets everyone in the office have their own individual temperature control while saving up to 40% in energy. Think of it as Nest meets Sleep Number. The target market for this is light commercial buildings, that's buildings under 25,000 square feet, but these represent over 90% of the commercial buildings in the US market. Most of these buildings have a single thermostat, and that leads to wide temperature imbalances. Occupants away from the thermostat are uncomfortable. In fact, one of the building owners that we work with, Paul, issues what he calls a climate stick, so his tenants can open and close the registers. Also, energy is wasted on unoccupied areas like conference rooms. The traditional solution to this has been zoning. However, zoning is very expensive to retrofit because it involves cutting into the ductwork and the walls to pull the wires. So we have developed a platform that combines cloud-hosted smart algorithms talking to building sensors and actuators. The first piece of this is what we call a centralized control unit. This forms the local brains of the system, and it replaces the existing thermostat, and it controls the HVAC equipment. The second is this wireless room module that measures the temperature and the humidity, and it also allows the desired temperature to be set. So now occupants have complete control over their own comfort. The third is these smart dampers that install into the ductwork without needing to cut into it. And this is where things get really, really exciting. The CCU takes minute-by-minute data in regards to the temperatures coming in from different parts of the building, and we load it to servers in the cloud. Every night we crunch this historical data and we create a thermal model of the building. We then look at the forecast weather and we predict how the building is going to be behaving, and we figure out an optimal control strategy, which is then sent back into the CCU, which proactively controls the HVAC equipment during the day. The system constantly learns and adapts to changes in the weather and heat loads. The results are what we call dynamic air balancing, with far more even temperatures. We incorporate some amazing technologies like demand control ventilation and occupancy detection that combine to save over 40% in energy savings. So utilities recognize the energy savings that we provide, and they're rewarding us with rebates. The current players in the market are all targeting the Class A buildings. That's buildings over 25,000 square feet with an install cost about 5 times higher than where we are. To quote an industry veteran who specializes in Johnson Controls, there's a void in that market. That void represents a $40 billion opportunity for the right product. The revenue for the product comes from the physical product sales, it comes from the recurring revenue from the cloud subscription services, and it also comes from revenue share with the utilities. The elephant in the room, of course, is the big data, and we have some very, very interesting thoughts on monetizing that. We launched the product in March of last year, and since then we have hundreds of individual office spaces and thousands of hours of comfort and savings under our belt. We were self-funded and cash flow positive, but we actually raised a seed round of $650K just 3 weeks ago, and that closed in just 4 days. We are now actually opening up for another $5 million round Series A right now because of some of the opportunities which transpired in the last 2 weeks. And what we're really excited about is the channel partnerships that we have done. Steve kicked our butt over at South by a couple of weeks ago, and since then we actually have a signed letter of intent from Blue Hawk, which is the largest HVAC distribution cooperative in the world with $6 billion in sales. And we also got an MOU from AeroSeal with over 850 certified installers to install over 100,000 systems of ours. In addition to the two-step distribution, we're also talking to the large retail chains which have an active interest in sustainability. As an example, when we met with Walgreens, they were so excited about our product, they were actually texting each other during the presentation to figure out a location to pilot with us. We also have a lot of interest from the big strategics for OEM and licensing deals. We are in talks with 5 of them, and just this last week, we actually started trials with the world's largest HVAC control company. So none of this would have been possible but for a fantastic team that's executed very well together in the past. We previously founded Santulit that went on to win the GE Ecomagination Award out of 5,000 entries worldwide. And we have some amazing board of advisors with deep industry connections, folks like Jay Schrankler over there, who is the president and GM of Honeywell Controls. Energy conservation has always been a bitter pill, with the users expected to make comfort sacrifices. 75F takes the better pill and turns it into this by offering better comfort, non-disruptive installs, and a quick payback. Because saving energy never felt better.
We're big believers in the space. We were big investors in Nest and putting more kind of usable controls in the hands of the people who are actually being affected by by the HVAC systems, but in their own homes. Within these settings, have you talked to any of the utility companies? Because they kind of the perverse incentive of wanting to actually sell less energy and have their customers save energy.
We are already getting discounts from the utilities because of prescriptive rebates. 2 weeks ago, we started trials with what's called Gas Technologies Institute, which was funded by Nicor. It's a big utility out in the Midwest. And that's because they want to verify our specific product for a lot more rebates than what we're currently getting. We've also talked to Sempra, PG&E over here. And I think California leads the way over here, right? Because thanks to the CPUC, you have the decoupling. So the utilities actually need to be giving these rebates out.
Yeah. Are they outside of just the rebates a possible sales channel as well?
They are. The way it works is in the utility world is they have certain targets that they have to meet in terms of the rebates they hand out, and they actually have outsourced it out to people like Franklin Energy, which is actually a channel. So they actually push products which save energy to meet those sales quota goals.
So you're more likely to work with Franklin and those groups?
Absolutely, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're working with a lot of, first of all, congratulations. It's great to see a Minnesota company here being, I can speak in that accent too. There's a lot of friction in the partners you're choosing. They're innovative companies, but they move slowly, and their distribution channels are very cumbersome themselves. Can you hand me the box and I can install this myself in my office?
So theoretically you can, but what we've chosen to do, in all honesty, is actually partner with the industry. Unlike Nest, we've tried not to go B2C. We think this is a B2B play, which is probably, it maybe takes time to evolve, but long term, I think it's the right way to go.
I promise I'll install it very quickly.
Right, but we have actually we simplified it, so it's very, very easy to install. It's like setting up an iPhone, and we've actually had installers work whose hands were so calloused, they couldn't actually operate the touch screen, right? So we actually had them use their knuckles to touch the screen, and we guided them through it. So I mean, we think we simplified it enough so that all of this is possible. And one of the interesting things is, I'll take slide 34, please. Right.
So just a quick question on that. Then with the channel, a channel is great when it works, but it does take a longer time, even if it's a speedy channel. When do you think revenue from the investment in the channel partners will really show up?
We are actually, as I mentioned, we were already cash flow positive, right? So theoretically, we could have grown organically. But right now, the reason why we're raising all of this money is because we have all these channel partnerships which have opened up, especially with the...
I think we're out of time, but I just want to point out, it's the third time I've seen the presentation last year in Minneapolis and Austin here. It gets better each time. And I particularly think it's cheeky that you're here at Google talking about taking on Nest and having an airplane with a little sign, on top of it. So good for you.